So some of the stuff I'm going to be going over, I'm going to go over rather rapidly, or just ask you to read it, because it will be covered in the PDF. And again, you'll have the PDF with links to all of the sites or the information that I'm going to provide. So you could use that along with the YouTube video if you want to go over and further your education in this regard. So with that, I just want to let you know that I have been hosting a program on Senior Planet from ARP since January 2022 called Wacky Tips or Wacky Monday. And we have been talking technology, Windows, Android, computers, and internet with this group. In fact, we just going to be celebrating the beginning of our 4th year next week, which is quite exciting. It's just one of our credentials. I would like to let you know that I encourage you to independently verify any of the information that we provide for you. We try to be correct. We try to do a lot of research work on this, but again, trust but verify. It's really our intent to update you. The information we're going to provide is a guideline. It's not all inclusive. I'll be talking about specific sites that are just suggestions or examples, not necessarily recommendations. I use Google Chrome quite a bit because it's the most widely used search engine out there. But similar features and settings are available in most other browsers or email clients besides Gmail. But we are, of course, Windows people, but there are, again, similarities in Windows and Mac. Some of the sites that you'll have links to are going to try to sell you something. We're not going to recommend or vouch for any of their products or services. But I also want you to know that we do not make a commission if you do use these links. We ask you to raise your hand or put a question in the chat, and hopefully Judy will be monitoring and interrupt me as I go along if it's something that I just covered and you need an answer for or some clarification. Fact of the matter, fact of life, you are being tracked, whether you like it or not. These are just some of the places, some of the ways that you're getting tracked out there. And then what do you think is happening to all of that data? It's falling into people's hands that are not good people. Okay, we've got a lot of information that we've talked about over the past couple of years here on Elderwerks. We talked about this breach in January 2024. That was a consolidation of about 20 billion, and this headline says 26 billion records. There was a tremendous breach of national public data in August of 2024. The problem with this breach is it also exposed Social Security numbers. We were here last October and did a presentation on it. That video is still online, and we're going to be back here on May 13th to reiterate this, go over it, and do some updates. I don't think that session is up on the calendar as of yet. I checked a couple of days ago, but it was not up there for May 13th. But it'll be coming soon. what's happened between our last visit talking about this and currently is we had a tremendous breach by some Chinese hackers, and a joint statement came out from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known as CISA, which you may or may not be familiar with. Um, and what happened was the Chinese have actually been able to access your text messages and phone calls on US telecom companies. Now, you weren't the target. The target were governments and political figures, primarily for espionage. But the problem is this information is out there and you're just as vulnerable as anybody else is, because that data could have been sold to malicious criminals. And what they can do with that information is gather that, take that along with all the other data that's out there, and increase your susceptibility to what we call social engineering and pig butchering. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what they are, but in the handout and of course in the video, you're going to have some definitions of social engineering and pig butchering. And there's a very short video up on YouTube. And again, you'll have the link to this on the PDF talking about what is pig butchering. I took a look at a site called Have I Been Pawned just last week. And this talks about 14 billion, that's billion accounts that have been pawned thus far. And that means they have been compromised with all kinds of data and information available out on the dark web. In December, CISA, again, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of the United States, issued this best practice guidance. It's difficult for me to go over all the recommendations in detail, and I find some of them kind of challenging even to me, and with the level of security and privacy that I am concerned with and try to pass on family, friends, and people who take our classes. But here are some of the recommendations that they're making. One is, you may not be aware, but the messages that you're sending over text and via phone are not encrypted if you cross devices. In other words, if you're on an Android device and you're talking or texting somebody on an iPhone, your message is not encrypted. And the same goes for iPhone to Android. So what they're talking about here is some type of encrypted messaging or communications channels. Now, where is this a concern? It is if you're sharing information, if you're sharing financial information, if you're sharing medical information, if you're sharing any kind of personal information like passcodes or access to sites, that means that people out there may be able to use that information against you. So Signal, and I've installed this, Judy has installed this on our phones. This is an encrypted messaging service that works both on Android, iPhone, iPad, Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's something you might want to check out. It's the one that the CISA specifically mentions in their guidelines. And it is encrypted, both ends, crossing channels. Here's another disclosure about that CISA talks about switching multi-factor authentication methods. You may not be aware of the fact that, again, these are using a lot of times text messaging. And if the text messaging is not encrypted, then sending you an authentication code will some can be intercepted, so as to say. So they are recommending using authenticator apps like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator, et cetera, et cetera. There's many out there. Google Authenticator, again, is one of them. I provide the link to this one rather than to the Microsoft, because Microsoft, again, is a Windows product. So this is an authenticator app that I have installed. Apple does have a dedicated authenticator app. And CISA also recommends fast identity online. I'm not going to go into defining what this is, but if you're interested in learning more, again, this information will be in the handout. And if you want to go to the CISA recommendations PDF, you can, you'll have a link to get to there. We talked a lot about VPNs in past discussions as far as using them, but the other side of the coin is they're not totally secure. Again, there's some very interesting factors about VPNs. You're putting your trust in the VPN provider, and if that provider's compromised, your data is vulnerable. It's also, it can be attacked. And the one thing that we have to realize that your information is only encrypted from your device to the VPN, but not further onto the targeted sites. So that's a vulnerability you might be aware of. Again, our focus is primarily on confidential information, financial, medical, personal information like passwords, personal information about people you know. Again, keep that off of non-encrypted texting and phone apps out there is the recommendations. Other CISA recommendations include setting a telco PIN number in case your phone is lost or stolen. It's also crucial to counter SIM swapping attacks. Update your software regularly. And if you can, opt for the latest cell phone hardware version, because this frequently incorporates critical security features that older hardware cannot support any longer. Any questions, Judy? Any hands raised or anything in the chat on this?
No, not yet.
All right, let's move on, or I'll give a second to see if anybody has any questions. All right. So here are some additional suggestions. Oh, Carol, go ahead.
And don't yell at me. I know you talked about it 100 times. I thought the VPN hides your IP address or something.
It does, but it's only encrypted from your device to the VPN platform and not past that. Here's some additional suggestions. Use a password manager. Password managers securely store your passwords, passkeys, and other information. You have to understand some are cloud-based and some are local, what we call locally based, which means that you're hosting them on your own devices. One of the ones that we talk about frequently is called Bitwarden. It is free for personal use. And if you're interested in looking at it, and there's a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to set it up and how to use it. And there'll be a link in the PDF to, again, Bitwarden.
There's a question on VPN, going back a little. Is it worth having it?
Yes, absolutely. And it's especially critical if you're out there using a Wi-Fi network, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, that is public, that there's no codes, no passwords to get into them. But I use VPN even while I'm home. My computer's has an active VPN right now. And of course, my smartphone does as well, cell phone. Passkeys are the next level up. Here they use biometrics. They'll use your face, fingerprints, or a device PIN when you log into websites. They're more robust and user-friendly, and hackers generally can't easily steal or guess them. I'll have a link in the PDF as well about the different sites that you can use passkeys directly in. And that list is growing. I mean, compared to when we first looked at this, there are many, many more sites that are incorporating passkeys into them. Just a heads up on public Wi-Fi networks. Never use a Wi-Fi network, as I said before, that does not require a password without you using a VPN. And always, before you do that, make sure that the ownership is legit, and somebody is not masquerading using a name of a Wi-Fi network to try to edge you to use it. This is especially concerning in places like coffee shops, airports, large gathering areas. Just be sure that you know who that Wi-Fi network, who owns it, and that it's a legit. Medical offices, there's a lot. I was in a medical office a while back, and they had a sign out that they had private VPN. And I went to try to log in, and it didn't work. And I asked somebody at the desk what was going on, and she told me one of the next door neighbors or one of the people across the street were using it too much, so they decided to shut it off. But when I went back a few months later, it was back up and working. So again, you've got to be leery.
How do we start using those passkeys?
When you go to a site, it'll ask you whether you want to use a passkey or not.
On any website?
Well, what are the websites, again, going to that directory that uses it? Not all the websites out there are using passkeys right now.
So if it doesn't ask you, what do you do?
Then they're not using passkeys.
Okay, because I know we use those passkeys with work, and so I have it on my work computer, but I didn't know how to do it on my personal computer.
Right. Now there is also a hardware device that looks like a thumb drive or again, a thumb drive that you just plug into your computer, but I'm not going to start recommending that because there's I've not used one for many years. I used one probably about 15 or 20 years ago. And what they do is they generate different codes every 10 or 15 seconds. But if you're interested in that, they are available on Amazon. And that is, again, a hardware device rather than a software device. Carol, your hands up?
So I think, if I understand right, is it Bitwarden that like makes these passcodes? So you go to all the different websites and you're still using that Bitwarden thingies. You know what I mean? Like, because it almost sounds like if you're going to different websites, you have a passkey for each website. How do you know where that's kept?
Well, it's kept in Bitwarden. And
Okay.
if you have the Bitwarden app on that browser,
Okay.
then it syncs with that app on the browser.
Okay. Got it. So it has to be on all your devices. On the cell, on the tablet, on the Mac, on the Windows computer. All of them have to have Bitwarden on it.
Well, that's the benefit of Bitwarden because it's in the clouds. If you have something on your computer itself, then it only resides on that computer, on that device, whether it's a computer, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a smartphone.
Thank you.
We do recommend turning Wi-Fi off when leaving your house because if not, your Wi-Fi signal is going out there and your privacy can be compromised because you can be tracked on that. Other than the fact that it will also conserve battery and energy on your phone.
When you turn off your computer, does it automatically turn off Wi-Fi?
No, not on your smartphone.
Computer.
Are we talking about a laptop? Or are we talking about a PC that's strictly at the house?
Yeah, my laptop is in the house. I don't take it anywhere else. Although I do take my cell phone.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. And if you do take your laptop away, you should turn off the Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah, no, I never take it. I use my laptop as a desktop computer.
Okay,
I use a monitor, an actual desktop monitor, to view you, for instance.
okay, then it's resident. It sits in your house. So it's in your Wi-Fi in your secure area. So you don't have to turn it on and off. But we're talking about when you're leaving home, especially with your cell phone, that we suggest that you turn off Wi-Fi on the cell phone. There's no need for it. All right. There's really no need for it until you get to an area where you want to use their Wi-Fi network. And hopefully you're not going to use that network unless it is a private network and you have to have a password. I'll give you, for instance, we were at my sister's house on Saturday, and I have got a password to get into her private Wi-Fi network. So all I have to do is turn my Wi-Fi back on, and I'm automatically logged into her private network.
Okay, now, but it would still, if I turn off the Wi-Fi, it would still work as a cell phone, correct?
Oh yeah, because Wi-Fi, you're still your cell phone is using cellular data. I mean cellular towers out there. It's not using Wi-Fi acting as a phone.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So Mike, when you're at your sister's house, her Wi-Fi comes up on your phone and you just hit, the button, right?
I just have to swipe down on my
Right down and find hers. Okay,
turn off Wi-Fi.
okay.
Just like I don't have data on my phone unless I need it, because we don't have an unlimited data program. So I just have data turned off and I swipe and I turn data on when I need it.
Thank you.
There were a couple of hands raised. Judy, are those hands still up?
Carol has her hand raised.
So I just want to make sure I understand this. When you say turn the Wi-Fi off, you mean on the actual device I'm leaving the house with, or my home Wi-Fi where the router is?
No, turning it off on the device that you're leaving. It says turn off Wi-Fi when leaving home. Okay, I see what it should mean on the device that you're taking when you leave home. Okay, thank you.
But that's my question. When I get to the I'm gonna say the bad thing. When I go to the library, I want to download all my songs, so I shouldn't even be doing that. I should download them ahead of time and not at the library.
Well, is the library a public or a private Wi-Fi?
Public, so I should do it before I leave the house. Got it.
Thank you. I think you answered your own question. Anything else? I have to make a change to the PDF.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's a VPN question if you want to go back a little and talk about that.
Sure, let's roll back the screen.
Well, you don't have to roll back. Can you explain how to set up a VPN? Is it very difficult to do that?
All right, we have been talking, and I do not have a slide on this, but there is a VPN that's called Warp and it is available from a company, and just listen to this because it sounds a little weird. The number one, but spelled out, 1 dot ONE dot ONE. That's 4 ONEs separated by dots. Has a free VPN that you can download onto your computer or onto your cell phone. And the setup is really quite easy. Just follow directions. Again,
How do
go ahead.
how do you turn off Wi-Fi?
Again, you just go into settings. In my case, it's a swipe to get access to it. I can't show it to you, but I'm doing it right now. All I do is I swipe down on my phone, and I have either data or Wi-Fi that pops up right away. And all I have to do is tap it to turn it on or off. I don't know how your phone works, but that's how easily my phone works.
And you're Android.
I'm Android on a Motorola phone. Otherwise, it'll be found in your settings.
Barbara's saying it's in settings under connections.
On Android,
She didn't say.
Barbara, is that Android or iPhone?
That's Android.
Okay. Anybody out there with iPhone?
Mm.
Yes, I have an iPhone, and you just go into settings, and it's right there. Wi-Fi, you just swipe
Same.
like you said, and it just turns on.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, you may not have heard of this before, but it's something that you should consider. And one of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention. Anything else before I move on?
No.
All right. If you want to educate yourself in cybersecurity, Microsoft has some extensive library on cybersecurity. Again, that link will be in the PDF. This is an excellent presentation from a company called not a company, but an organization called Senior Center Tech Connect. They're in Longmont, Colorado. I've gone to several of their presentations. They have a YouTube video. They have a PowerPoint slide presentation and a handout. And what they're talking about is educating you on phishing, vishing, smishing, and quishing scams out there. And if you haven't heard of quishing, that has to do with QR codes. It was done late last year, and it is up to date. It's done by a security expert. It's not done by one of us lay people, but it is, again, a security expert that does it. And if you go to their site, they have all kinds of information about Android phones and Apple stuff and cheap computing, if you're interested in cheap computers, and Chromebooks, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great site for information, but I specifically point out that it's a great resource if you want to get yourself educated on these different types of scams out there. Going back to CISA, CISA has a whole bunch of resources for individuals. You go to this site and you just scroll down a bit. It does not pop up at the top. And one of the very interesting places it sends you to is actually to Consumer Reports that has a security planner that you can go through some steps to enhance your security. So I offer this resource to you as well. Capital One, which I'll talk about in a little bit, also has a bunch of information on protecting yourself from scams. And one of the things that we talked about is encrypting your personal information. This is a site where you can use it to send your personal information securely. I have not used it. I use other methods to do it, but I did a little research on them. Seems like it's kind of easy. One of the things that you can do, you may not be aware of, is when encryption is not available and you have to send personal information, and I know tax season is coming up, and that's one of the big challenges right now with sending information with social security numbers and account numbers. Don't know whether you're aware of, but most PDF programs allow you to password protect your information. This is one that we have been talking about for a while on Wacky Mondays, and it's available for both Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android if you want to be able to password protect your confidential files. It's real easy. You just go into Tools and Password Protected. The only thing is you better remember what that password is and give that password to the person who you're sending the file to, and make sure that if you do, that you're doing it in an encrypted way or face-to-face, because you don't want to text them the password. This is a zip file where you can take multiple documents and compress them into a zip. It is Windows-based. I'm sure that there are Apple-based files that can do the same. If you're a Windows advocate, this link will be in the PDF as well. And it's real easy. You just go into it and you enter passwords and re-enter a password, and it will encrypt those files. In Windows, you could also password protect a file when you're saving it. All right, let's talk a little bit about protecting your assets, financial institutions and credit cards, all dear to our hearts. Absolutely. There's a lot of scams and, again, pig butchering. That's why I picked Piggy Bank to talk about this. So we recommend that you monitor your bank and credit card statements. This is something that I have done. Next is set up text or email alerts about transactions. In other words, when you find something out, when a credit card is used, or when a check clears your bank, or when something is set up as a payment, and I'm not talking about an auto pay, I'm talking about a special payment, you could have an alert sent to you that something is going on there. I just got one this morning that a rather large check cleared one of my accounts. It was legit. It was a donation that I sent for the Los Angeles, the fires in California, and I was glad that the company that that the NFP non-for-profit that I sent it to actually cashed it for the same amount that I wrote it. So I actually hate sending checks, so I was kind of dubious about it. Another recommendation is change your online passwords frequently and update your credentials and security questions and answers, of course. One of the ways that I have been using recommending is what's called a virtual credit card. These can be temporary, and I use one-time virtual credit cards. That's a version of your regular credit cards for online purchases. It just provides an extra layer of security. And again, I only use it once. Other people assign these to particular accounts. They work transparently. They, just like your regular credit card, they appear on your credit card statements. They can be canceled. You can set an expiration date. And what I have done is in the PDF, I have included 3 sources of virtual credit cards for you. And we're talking credit cards here. We're not talking banks. In fact, I looked at Chase, which we have a credit card for, and Chase does not have a credit card, a virtual credit card as of yet. Whether they're going to do it or not, I have no idea, but just check with your credit card company. Privacy Cards is not an independent credit card company, so you can go to it with your existing credit card and set it up there through Privacy Cards. Capital One and Citi Card are credit card companies in themselves. Some browser tips. We have been talking for years about using more private browsers, such as Firefox, Brave, DuckDuckGo, StartPage. In fact, we have a video up on YouTube for Elderwerks that talks about some of these different types of browsers. So you might want to check them out. And we've talked in Wacky about updating browsers and for security patches and how to do that. In fact, I have a separate PDF. If you join us on Wacky Monday, we'll be more than happy to share that with you. Here are in Chrome some privacy and security settings that I am especially concerned about and advise you to check them out in Chrome, and other browsers have the same type of settings. The top one is called Enhanced Privacy. It's their highest level of privacy. The other is using only secure connections. And then the third one is using secure DNS servers. You can learn a little bit more about them, and but these are definitely recommendations that we make. Here's another one that people may not be aware of. We strongly advise not to use autofill for forms online. And the reason for that is you may not be aware that malicious sites can hide fields from you. And since you're opening up that autofill, they can capture sensitive information you may have put in on another site. So this is, again, a very strong recommendation that you turn off this automatic autofill. And again, depending on your browser, it's going to be in settings. Another strong recommendation is avoid single sign-on, which is called SSO services. And that is when you go in to a site and it asks you whether you want to sign in with your Google account or your Facebook account or your Apple account to sign in. And we strongly recommend against doing it. They're very convenient, but they pose a security risk. One of that risks is if they fail or they're compromised, every account that you have linked with them are breached as well. And of course, the 3 sites, Google, Facebook, and Apple, all track your online activities. So it's best to sign up and log in with an anonymous email address and a strong password using a password manager or passkey. Another alert is the lock sign, or the S after HTTPS, only means that the information that you're sending from your device to that site is encrypted on both ends. You have to realize that that site can be owned and operated by bad guys, what we call malicious criminals. So if you upload your information to them, by accidentally going to a site that may have a misspelling, you may have misspelled the site that you want, and it looks like the site that it's supposed to be, but in actuality, it's not. So heads up on this alert. You can also do this on your phone as well. Some email tips. I talk about anonymous email services and alias generators. And one of them is DuckDuckGo, which I use. And this provides private email addresses. And anytime you go to sign in or register for someone, you're going to get a prompt on your browser that asks you whether you want to use your DuckDuckGo email address. If you're not familiar with this, I also offer a link to the page that explains their services. We want to also caution you to stop automatic display of external images on your emails. Again, this is in settings, and it can slow down your performance, and it is a security potential problem in security because it can track your email activity and even deliver malware, hidden code in that image. So avoid doing that. Again, it's under settings, under images generally, regardless of what browser you're using. Gmail has some information about how you can send an open confidential emails if you want to use their service. If you have a Gmail account, there are extensions for Chromium-based browsers in the Chrome Web Store. All right, I have some apps to enhance your security online. Again, and I actually have a PDF on this. Again, if you join us on Wacky, we can share that with you. But here are some of the ones that I use frequently. This is a great site to analyze files and websites for malware and breaches. And you will have a link to this in the PDF. Here's the Google Transparency Report that also lists safe browsing sites. Here's a scam detector before you do any online purchases from non-well-known sites. I mean, if you're at Amazon, and hopefully you're on the right Amazon site, if you're on a site like Walmart or Target or something like that, you can pretty much rely on that. However, if you're doing it on an off-site or something, you're not familiar with, this is a great a great place to check to see whether they're known for scams or not. This is something I have installed on my browsers. This is fantastic. It's an extension called V2 for browsers. And what it does is it automatically checks for viruses and malware before you download them. So you give it a prompt, it asks you whether you want it verified, you tell it where to save it, and before you actually save it, it will come back with a report as to whether it's loaded, whether it has any viruses or malware attached to it. So this is a great tool. I highly recommend this. Here's the website to explain a little bit more to you, but it is in the app stores like the Chrome extensions, any of the Chromium-based browsers out there. I know Tony mentioned this earlier at a different program that we were on. I don't know if Tony is still with us, but if we all sign into accounts, we all register for accounts, and we never read the terms of service because they're much too long. So if you really want to know what you signed up for, go to this site and you'll find out what the terms of service are that you have given them the ability to use all your data that they're gathering on you. It is, to sum this up, it's safe to assume your data was leaked or soon will be. We're trying to give you some straightforward, effective security measures. these steps should help improve. And it's really a beginning. You know, there's a lot more things that we could talk about, a lot more steps that you could take. But what we talk about is low-hanging fruit. And what you want to do is put as many obstacles as you can in the path of hackers or scammers. Get yourself educated so that you can turn away these threats. You're so head and shoulders above the average user, in my estimation, just by attending these types of programs and taking some of these recommendations into consideration. And I applaud you, and hopefully that you can gain some information and some tips from this program.